Ladies and gentlemen, our convener, Catherine Abagun. Catherine is the founder of Quiverfull, a dynamic non-profit organization set up to provide a financial, emotional, and medical support system for women with infertility and obstetric issues. Gingered by her personal experience and witnessing the socio-economic plight of women in everyday living, Quiverfull was birthed to offer a practical platform of empowerment for women in need to help them live their lives to full potential. With a passionate voice for mental and physical liberation of the women folk, Catherine is a highly sought speaker at socio-economic empowerment fora. She's an ardent believer in the potential and ability of every woman to transform her life. She also organizes motivational seminars and skills acquisition programs for women. A master's degree holder in international law and diplomacy, Catherine has an exciting career as a technology sales expert working with Fortune 500 IT organization for almost 2 decades. Her professional experience cuts across different domains of customer relationship management and core sales operations. She is married to Adedeji Abagun and they have an adorable son. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Fertility Conference 2023, Catherine Abagun. We celebrate you.
Thank you, Dr. Juwon, for that very educating session. I've been asked to talk about adoption and surrogacy. I'll take adoption first. My job is not to define what adoption is, even though it's important that we know the meaning. It's a legal process of placing a child permanently with a parent other than the biological parents. In this process, the parental right of the birth parent is permanently terminated. That said, the key question you need to answer as a waiting mother or couple looking to adopt is why. Why do you want to adopt? And don't tell me it's because we don't have a child. Because even people who have biological kids do adopt. Is it so you can prevent the shame of childlessness? So you need like a stopgap pending when you have a biological child? I need you to think about this question first. Once you have been able to answer these questions in the affirmative, then you have crossed the first hurdle. The next thing is you need to agree with your husband or your spouse, as the case might be. I believe you want to raise a child with a wholesome esteem. When you have agreed with your spouse, the next thing is to consider the external influences. Your family's reluctance to accept the child. Think about the peculiarity of your immediate extended family. Will you be able to stand for the child in the face of outright rejection and aggression? How are you going to be able to deal with all of these issues, social issues, issues in the neighborhood? I want to share my personal experience because I believe someone will be blessed. We happen to adopt a child as well. But the first thing that I need to tell you is you must have the capacity to love. Do you have the capacity to love a child that's not biologically yours? And the best way to answer this question is look around you. How much of a blessing have you been to people around you? Your nephews, your nieces, your friends' kids, your neighbors' kids. This will help you to really determine whether or not you have the capacity to love. Because we've seen many cases of waiting parents or couples just getting a stopgap. As soon as they have their own biological child, they begin to treat the child in a bad way. Some even ask if they could return the kids back to the orphanage. These are things that we've heard. I've had so many stories in these 4 years of running this ministry, and I begin to wonder, why would a woman do that? No child is a mistake, regardless of the circumstances of birth. Even if it is rape or whatever the circumstance or the condition, every child is craftily and carefully designed by the Maker. And that is what Jeremiah 1 verse 5 told us. It says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. So it means before that child or a woman was raped or whatever, God had already packaged a destiny for that child. And there are so many myths around adopting a child. First of all, people think about the background of the biological parent, superstitions about the possibility of the child being possessed, or if one of the birth parents is a thief, the child too could take on or inherit the traits. However, the theory of tabula rasa clearly debunked this concept. The theory posits that individuals are born without built-in mental content, and therefore all knowledge comes from experience or perception. So if you have a child that you are raising, whether biological or adopted, it is what you have been able to, the input that will determine the output. If you are a deliberate parent, your child will turn out well, irrespective of whatever anybody else says about adopting a child. I tell you, the best thing a woman can do is to adopt and love a child. There is nothing as beautiful as having somebody call you mother. The first time my son called mom, I can't begin to explain the joy. Or is it the cuddle, the hug, the mom, I love you, the mom, I miss you? These are genuine love that you can't describe. And the kind of joy that comes from it is you can't describe. And let me tell you the truth. There is no difference. Biological or adopted, there is no difference. If you are a waiting mother, make yourself happy. Nobody gets a placard for having biological kids. It is not how fast or how well. It is what you have been able to put into that child that will determine the outcome. So having said that, we need to look at the process. What are the processes involved? Because a lot of questions or people come around to ask questions around the processes. First of all, in Lagos State, for example, you need to apply to the Lagos State Ministry of Youth and Social Development, the adoption unit, which is at Block 18 at the Lagos State Secretariat, Alausa, Ikeja. You submit a formal letter of request to the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Youth and Social Development. I'm sure many of you know this. And then, you go for an interview with the Director of Social Welfare or a representative. You collect a letter of approval to search for an adoptable child in government approved homes. And of course, I'm not going to lie to you to say it's that easy. It's easier said than I've said it now. It's easier said than done. So the next thing is you collect a letter of approval to search for an adoptable child in government approved homes. Government approved homes. Don't go to baby factories. Don't go to baby factories, because whether you like it or not, questions are going to be asked. You need to be able to tell your kid how you adopted him or her, the process you went through. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not a shame. It's not a thing of shame. Don't hide. There's no need to go and pretend you're pregnant when indeed you're not really pregnant. And then you come with a baby to say, oh, you traveled abroad and you brought a child from a baby factory. To what end, really? There's no need to be that desperate. I believe God answers prayer. Whichever way God is going to answer yours, whether through adoption, whether through biological conception, self-conception, or whatever it is, God is a good God. The second viable option for a couple looking to have babies is surrogacy. Surrogacy is a method of assisted reproduction where intended parents work with a gestational or traditional surrogates who will carry and care for the babies. The intended parents use surrogacy to start or grow their family when they can't do so on their own. Who should consider surrogacy? At what point should you consider surrogacy? If you don't have a womb, surrogacy is an option. A woman with any kind of uterine disease or anomaly is also, a candidate for surrogacy. If a woman also is diagnosed with uterine issue, you might want to consider surrogacy. Or if you have a history of miscarriages or preterm birth thought to be due to factors other than egg or sperm quality or genetics, you need to consider that option. However, there are so many issues around surrogacy. The first thing is that there are no legal framework in Nigeria for it. So if the surrogate mom refused to release the baby after the birth, where do you go to? Because the law kind of covers the birth mom. So it's important that you engage the services of a lawyer to have a contract with the surrogate. In Nigeria, however, a legal contract is essential, very, very essential. Don't assume or take it on the face value that because someone is concerned or love the fact that they want to help you, they won't kind of renege on the promise once the baby is born. One other way to do it is to engage the services of agencies to help. Some fertility clinics also help to source for surrogates. I know about the Olive Branch Hospital in Lekki. There's an agency also called the Precious Conceptions, which is run by Toyin Lolo Ogumade, and many other agencies and fertility clinics. You want to check them out. So if you are advanced in age and you know that you don't have viable eggs, donor egg is also an option. I'm sure the woman talking on the IVF would talk more on that. But that is nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing wrong in having a donor egg or using a donor sperm. There's absolutely nothing wrong in doing it. Okay? Just be free. The example that I usually give is if you have a situation with your kidney, if you have kidney issues and you need a donor, you will take a donor kidney. There's no difference, really. If you don't have viable egg, you don't have viable egg. You just need to make yourself happy as a woman and do what you have to do. Have a child to love on. It takes a lot of pressure off you when you have a child that you can call your own, irrespective of whether it is adopted or through surrogacy. Okay? And don't make the mistake that someone like me made. I was so I don't even know how to explain it, bent on just using my own egg, even though the doctors advised that, because of my age, or even the option of surrogacy, my sister was willing to actually be my surrogate. I was, what kind of thing is that? But if I knew what I know now, no regrets. I thank God for the beautiful son God blessed me with. But do not make the mistake I made. That is what I'm trying to say. Make yourself happy, okay? And the reality of it is that it's not everybody that will have biological kids. Not everybody will marry, okay? There are people who are in their 50s, they've never been married. Some have never had sex. They didn't offend God. It's the reality of life. I want to leave you with this quote by Reinhold Niebuhr. Lord, give me the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, the courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. My prayer is that God will grant you the wisdom to know what to do and to take the bull by the horn, irrespective of what the society expects of you. God bless you.
I would like to ask Mrs. Abagun a question, because the issue on surrogacy is a very, 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 very delicate issue. We hear it over, we hear it over and over again. In the newspapers, I read it and it breaks my heart. Stories around surrogacy and the many complications, because we really don't have a proper legal structure for surrogacy to work. So, but the question here is, does the surrogate have a right to the baby if the egg is not hers? I'd like you to answer it in the two ways. If a surrogate donated her own egg, which I believe is not a wise move, if you use the egg of the surrogate, does she have access to the baby? Can she have access to the baby? Does she have a way to fight and get that baby? Number one. Number two, if it wasn't her egg, if she was just a vessel to carry the baby, can she still lay claim to the baby, or say she wants to have access to the baby? Help us answer that, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Unfortunately, the answer is yes. Because even in the Western world, where in some states in America, for example, there are some legal backings for that. But for the woman that carries the baby, there's this kind of cover for her. So in a situation like the one you described, which is traditional surrogacy, where the surrogate actually also donates her egg, that even actually gives her more rights to the child. Okay. So this is why we always advise that do not take anything for granted. And I'm aware that some of our fertility clinics actually do help in this area. How they do it is the surrogate would have signed some contracts. The only challenge is that this is very expensive, because there are some professional surrogates. This is what they do for a living. They carry the baby for you. You pay them, of course, which is not cheap, right? But even because, like we're talking about mental health as it relates to fertility. A lot of things happen during the process of pregnancy. Several hormones are triggered. And naturally, I won't blame the surrogate for wanting to hold on to the baby, because a baby is precious, okay? And I think if you ask me, even for most people who are doing surrogacy as a profession, I believe there is need for them to also have therapy, for them to be able to live their lives in such a manner that they're not thinking, oh, I carry this baby, I don't know where the baby is and all that. Some of these things have a way of affecting people. So this is why most of these agencies, you don't know who your surrogate is. The arrangement is between the agency through a lawyer. The surrogate will sign a contract. Whatever amount of legal fees or whatever professional fees that is required is also part of that contract, okay? But the baby is taken away immediately the child is born. So there is even no time for the surrogate to either want to decide or change their minds. A contract is a contract. But legally, the woman who is a surrogate actually has the right to say, I'm not going to release this baby. Even in the Western world, we've seen cases of surrogacy gone sour like that. This is why, if you are seeking that, you please make sure that, first of all, the surrogate, your identity is not revealed. You don't have to know the identity of the surrogates as well. The clinic, most of these are fertility clinic. I'm sure they do that in Blossom. Dr. Juwon also has a fertility clinic in somewhere in Ikeja. I don't know if they do surrogacy, but literally all the fertility hospitals do it, because some of these clinics have seen it as it's like, I'll say it's like a ministry, so to speak. When you meet the doctor, is actually compassionate. They kind of walk the journey with you to ensure that in the end, if you're not able to carry yours biologically, either through IVF, you're able to get a baby through surrogacy. And we've even seen cases where some of these hospitals also have like counselors who will counsel you as to the best way to have a child.
So another question that has come up is the question concerning surrogacy or adoption. And because this person wants to understand what are the risks associated, because you've just broken down the risk associated with surrogacy and then risk associated with adoption as well, and which is most protected, which of them is most protected within our Nigerian legal system?
Okay, so thank you for that question. I don't want to say one is better protected than the other because circumstances are different. However, in adoption, when you go through, this is why every time I speak concerning adoption, I always advise that you go through it through the proper channel. Do not go through the back door. Do not go through the back door, because even in a situation where nobody's asking you for, nobody's saying, I want to take the child back, right? The child also, deserve the rights to know at some point in his or her life that you're not the biological parents. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. Even legally, the ministry will also encourage you to say, look, this child has become legally yours. The child is entitled to every single thing that your biological children, if you have one, will be entitled to. The child is entitled to inheritance, okay? The child is entitled to love whatsoever that your biological child or a biological child is entitled to, your adopted child is, because it's yours. And at the end of the day, it's who trained the baby, who nurtures a child that is truly in the real sense of motherhood or fatherhood, are the parents, okay? So I don't want to say one is better, one is more secured, because in the end, this is my personal opinion, and it may not be, my personal opinion, and, and I'm a very strange person if you ask me. I don't think that any of it is a big deal, right? If the child gets to a certain age, I've always said that if my son gets to a certain age and he wants to know who the biological mother is, I will assist. I'm going to actively, we know how to can even, because I have the history. Historically, from the orphanage, we know how the baby came to, how it was going to be thrown away, how the woman didn't want, the address she gave, she had left that address. I'm sure there's a way, even though she threw away the SIM, nobody could reach her. But I'm sure she has a name. We have an idea, the locality. Maybe it's going to take years, it doesn't matter. I'm going to encourage him to look out for that woman, because I don't judge her, and I don't expect my son to judge her. Okay, so we need to live in such a way that life is not as difficult as we are taking it, right? Nobody owns any child in the long run. When was the last time I saw my mother? Thank God for GSM. In the past, sometimes 6 months. Some of us, when our mothers are even calling, we feel they are disturbing us. So in the end, you've got to live your life with or without a child. It's good to have a child to love on, but don't make it a project. It's not your life is not the only reason you're created is not just to have kids. It's good to have kids. I'm not undermining that. I love babies, and that's why I've been through 10 IVFs. But when you have done all, you have to get to a level that you take the reality of the circumstance and do what you have to do to be happy. Okay, so whether the adopted mother comes back, of course, when a child, maybe tomorrow your child becomes the governor of Lagos State, you think the person that threw the baby away will not want to say, oh, by the way, I am the mother. Some people don't have shame. Be my guest. If you want to claim my child, it's okay. You know, it's because I've done a terrific job. That's why you want to claim claim the child, right? So in the case of surrogacy, it is important because if the surrogate refuse to release the baby, you are not yet a mother. And that means your objective, your goal of having your own baby has not been achieved. This is why you need to enter into a clear-cut contract. So if it has to go to court, the surrogate is bound by the terms of that contract.
A question on how to join.
Okay.
People are really celebrating all our speakers for giving a very informative session. So we would like you to address how to join this great family. And someone said, I stay in Abagun. Where are you located? And I'll let you answer that. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of location, yes, we have a registered NGO and an address. So our location, so to speak, is not physical. So the first thing is, after this meeting, you can just go to our IG Live bio and download. There's a form that is there where you're going to fill in your details and somebody is going to contact you. The first thing is we have a WhatsApp group where we regularly, encourage each other. We do different things. We also meet physically. We have a location in Victoria Island where we meet regularly because if you want to walk this journey together, proximity is also important. Where people share their burdens. Once in a while, we bring people who have been through the same challenge and they come to share the experience. Other times I share a lot of my experience as well. If you want to know how more, because with the time given for this session, for each of the session is not enough, like the MC said. If you want to know more about or details about my personal journey, that's group or program usually that we normally have on a quarterly basis. I think we also do IG Live on a monthly basis. We bring people, in fact, even men of God who have been through the same journey to encourage that. So just go there and fill in your details. Somebody is going to reach out to you, and then you'll be glad you did, actually. We're not promising that tomorrow you're going to have a baby or whatever, but I mean, the first thing is you have a community of women who are very helpful. We're joyful people, we're happy people, because we believe that, what God has done for one is able to do for the other. I'll share a quick testimony. There's a couple that they've waited for 21 years. But sometimes what we need is information. Most people are not informed. We pray, especially those of us who are Christians, even Muslims who pray and, trust God to do all of these things. Sometimes the only thing that you need, it might just be like a small drug. A friend of mine years ago, before I went for IVF, was the one who introduced me to IVF. She went to do IVF and the doctor actually said there was a cyst in his, I don't know where it's located. It was given a drug to take for 3 months. Before she finished that drug, she was pregnant. So when you go to all this, we will encourage you. Yes, we will pray with you, but we'll also push you to, at the minimum, do the assessments. Go to a clinic and find out what is wrong. Why are we not able to conceive? And then Ogatu has to also be ready to do the assessment. So this is what we do in Quiverfull. And also we want you to live your life. We don't want your life to be on hold. Once in a while, we do what we call pamper me. We come together, for the weekend, we do massage, we do yoga, we swim, just generally feel okay and get ready mentally. Your mental health is important, even while you're on the journey to fertility. Thank you.
Someone dropped the question on our YouTube page right now. And the question is around the fact that how do you carry a pregnancy that the egg is not yours? So what's the emotional, how would you be able to carry such a pregnancy? Do we have Bojubola to help us answer that question right now? Or Mrs. Abagun, you would like to take that? if we don't have Bojubola.
Okay. So this question is around how do you feel the connection to the egg or what? Really, I mean, a pregnancy is a pregnancy, you know. How do you know? Okay, for instance, let me ask the question. If you do IVF and they actually use someone else's egg and you're not aware, would you carry the baby? You will carry it. I don't think it's a big deal. I've seen several cases of donor eggs. There's no difference, really. There's no difference. Again, I don't know, maybe there is, maybe Dr. Gojubola can help us associate or tie it to mental health and all that. But I mean, I did IVF several ones, which didn't work. If he had worked, would have been donor egg. I would have, gladly carried it. For me, it doesn't make any difference. Yeah, I mean, we adopted. It wasn't a big deal. So I don't think there's any difference in using your egg, carrying it. You will carry it, and your body would. The pregnancy hormones will kick in as soon as implantation occurs. Every symptom that a pregnant woman, okay, the Uju is here, she can help us expatiate on that. How do you carry a pregnancy that is not your egg? You carry the pregnancy, you feel all the symptoms, you breastfeed the baby, you give birth to the baby, that's it. That's it. I don't see that. I don't think there's any specific criteria or ways or points to give to this is how to carry the baby. Over time, you get just the same way that you foster kids. I've fostered a child before. You foster a child, and the day the child is going, you start to cry. Because you connect. There's something. Of course, I know we're different. People are different, But I had fostered a child before, and when the mother came to take the child away, it actually broke me. It was really painful. And I remember one of those days I visited because they were relocating to South Africa. I went to South Africa and I saw the child. The child was already connected to me as well. When I was leaving, she started crying. She wanted to go with me. She was already it was like 12. So it wasn't like she didn't recognize her biological mother. So there is a connection with the baby that you carried that you didn't carry in your womb, not to talk of the one you carried in your womb. There's no difference, really. That's the way I see. Dr. Gonjubola, do you want to help us, or do you want to help us talk more about that? I believe that the body would agree, and as soon as the implantation occurs, your breast will get fuller. You'll be able to feed the baby. Everything that a pregnant woman feels is what you feel.
Thank you for joining us for Fertility Conference 2023. We hope to see you next time.